guys, my name is Carmela and this is my debut on booktube. That's my cat. I've always loved reading, but the past few months, several months, I haven't had as much time to read just because I am a full-time student. I work a lot, but there was one book that I read this month that I could not put down, and it made me want to read constantly every free second I get again. So I'm going to be talking about that one, and I'm going to be showing you guys everything else I read this month and everything that I am planning on reading in July. So the first book I finished this month was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, but the first book that I was reading before that was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I'm going to be talking about this one first. I'm also somebody that reads like a million books at once. Like currently I think there are 16 or 17 books on my currently reading list on Goodreads, but I'm gonna try to be better about that. Song of Achilles was a book that my book club was reading, and I read this with my boyfriend. He finished this so much quicker than I did, and I was so pleasantly surprised. He liked this a lot more than I did. I really was not into it at the beginning. I thought I was going to enjoy it more than I did, so I was excited for it, but the beginning was very slow and I really thought I was never gonna finish this. I was also, like I said, in a slump, but because he read it with me, I decided to finish it. I also hate not finishing books that I start. I finished it and I'm glad I did because it got so much better. I feel like at the beginning it was a little bit uncomfortable because they were so young, but as they got older and their relationship grew and they grew as people, it got a lot more interesting and I enjoyed it a lot more. I almost cried at the end too. This is a spoiler-free video, so I'm not going to go into detail, but it ended up being very good. I gave this 3.5 stars. I really thought it was gonna be a 2 at first. Don't hate me also because I know a lot of people love this book. It did get a lot better, but 3.5. The second book I read and the first book I finished in June, this was what took me out of my slump. This is The Cruel Prince. My friends and I, Yeltsin and Rachel, we started a book club, and this was the first book. So this was the first month that we did it, and Yeltsin picked the book, and I was super excited because I've seen this for years and I've always been like slightly interested in it, and fantasy is like my genre, like that's what I typically read. So I was super excited for this. I was also kind of disappointed at the beginning. I really enjoy fantasy where it's like you are like super immersed in the world, and this took place like outside of Maine and they went to the mall, and it was just a little too real world for me sometimes, because when I look for a fantasy book I'm more looking for like an escape, and I grew up close to Maine and you know the mall and stuff. It's just, it wasn't something that was taking me out of my head like I like to go. So it was kind of iffy at the beginning, but when I kept reading it, it got so good and I was so hooked. I'm obsessed. I finished this book in like 2 days, and it was just like I was reading it everywhere. I hate reading in the car. I hate reading if somebody has music playing, but I read this through everything. It was so good. I was so into it. I thought the characters were really interesting. Carden reminds me of Draco a little bit, and I love Draco. He was one of my comfort characters when I was growing up. So there were a lot of connections there. There were also a lot of parts where I was genuinely so shocked that my jaw was like on the floor. Again, this is a spoiler-free video, so I won't be going into detail, but this was so good and we all really enjoyed it in the book club. We all kind of said the same thing, like we weren't really feeling it at the beginning and then we got obsessed. So we're gonna be reading The Wicked King for our July book of the month, and I'm about halfway almost through that one already. because like I said, I was addicted. I had to stop reading it to let them catch up because I was like, I don't want to get too far ahead into the second book before we talk about this one. But this was so good. I definitely recommend. I am also such a sucker for enemies to lovers, and this book did such a good job. Such a good job. I gave this a 5-star, and I'm very excited to read the rest of the series. The next book I read was One of Us is Lying. I don't really read mystery or murder or anything, but this was like at a high school, and it was written like for a younger audience, so I was like, I can handle this one. I think she did a great job writing this, and I know this is a show now, so I'm probably going to watch that, but this is also a series. So I might pick up the other book sometime, but like I said, this is not my normal genre. I tried to start going out of just typical fantasy, but this was a good read. I'm glad I read it. I was a little disappointed at the ending because I did figure it out a while before it ended. Not a while, but like I texted my friend who read this and I said, I swear if this is what happened, I'm gonna be so upset, because I feel like it was, I don't know. But overall, it was a good book. I give this a 4.5, 4.25. It was pretty good. And the last book I read in June was The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And this was such a good read. I read this really quickly too. I read this for a book club, and we just had our meeting the other day about it. And it was at this cute little pub. I'm gonna put videos and stuff here. They had a local author there talking about one of her books. The venue that it was at was like a brewery, and they had a bar upstairs, a little bookstore, and we had like the whole upstairs blocked off for the book club, and it was just so cute. I've been going to this book club for a year now, and that was definitely the cutest, coziest venue that I've been to for that club. And this was also one of my favorite books that I've read for that. It's about this man called Linus Baker, and he works for the department in charge of magical youth, and he goes to orphanages to see if the children are being treated right. It's for magical children, and they kind of keep an eye on them. You know, everyone whose magic has to be registered and watched, basically. So the system's kind of fucked up, but he just goes in, does his job. He's been there for 17 years, and he gets sent on this classified level 4 mission, I guess call it, to go to this orphanage that basically has like the worst of the worst kids. It's on this island, and when Linus first gets there, he doesn't know much about the children or where he's going. So he doesn't know much about the children or where he's going, but he's a little scared at first, and he ends up, well, I'm not going to go much further than that, but it is very, very cute, very sweet, and there were so many good quotes in here. Like, I literally wrote at one point, like, he is giving Dumbledore a run for his money, because he just, like, not even just Linus, but like all of the characters and the author in general, like, there were so many good quotes in here. I felt like I was highlighting too much because everything was like, that's good, that's good, that's good. I needed to hear that, I needed to hear this. So this was so good. The sequel to this is coming out in September, November, around there. I will definitely be reading that. And he has another book called Under the Whispering Door that's not related to this, but I want to read that too because his writing was just so good. I honestly don't know if I like this or The Cruel Prince better this month, but these are my 2 favorites for June. I gave this a 5-star too. So those were the 4 books I read in June. In July, I'm hoping to read more, but I have 4 books that are on my TBR already that I'm gonna quickly go through. I'm already in the middle of 3 of these. Like I said, I read a million books at one time. But I'm trying to get it down to where I'm only reading like 3 at a time. But I just like to have options, you know, because one night I feel like reading this, one night I feel like reading that, one night it's like watching TV. Like, you don't always watch the same thing unless you guys do, unless I'm crazy. The first book that's on my TBR is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, and I read the first 2 in the series. Obviously, very good books. I love them. This is the kind of fantasy book where you really get immersed in the world, and it's just chef's kiss. I am almost done with this one, so this probably is going to get finished next. So far it's been so good, so I'm excited to finish this. Next on my TBR is The Wicked King. This is the second book to The Cruel Prince, and like I said, I'm already about halfway done with it. Amazing. Amazing. That's all I have to say so far. So excited to finish this. Next is Waiting for Tom Hanks. And this is like a cute little romance book. I don't normally read stuff like this because Hallmark is not really my genre, but I saw this on Pinterest, I think, and I thought my mom would really like this book, so I wanted to read it with her. So we are doing our own little book club. I don't think she started hers yet, but I am almost halfway done with this one, and it's super, super cute and such an easy read. Sometimes I forget like that not everything is so like in depth as a fantasy book where you're like there's so much world building and like you have to keep up with this, and this, and there's so much like language you have to learn. But this, like, I've been flipping through it. It's so light, it's so refreshing, it's so fun, it's so cute. I love the characters so far. The main girl, her name is Annie. She is a freelance writer, and she is falling in love with a movie star that she is working on set with, and it's just adorable. So that's exciting. And the last book that's on my TBR is The Once and Future King by T.H. White. In my English class now, we are talking about this book a lot. I took this Harry Potter class that I am so happy I'm taking. I have all my English credits done and my electives done, so I really didn't need to take this class, and my advisor emailed me like 3 times like, don't take this, it's just a waste of money. But I love this class. We talk a lot about the connections that Harry Potter has to medieval tales, so my professor references this a lot. So I wanted to read it. This is like a story about King Arthur. I think this was 3 books put into one, or maybe it was 4. Apparently it says The Sword in the Stone, The Queen of Air and Darkness, The Ill-Made Knight, and The Candle in the Wind. So I'm super excited to read this, especially so I can have something else to contribute to class. It's not a requirement to read this, but he does talk about it a lot, so I'm excited to be able to talk about this more in depth. So that was my reading wrap up for June and my July TBR. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'll be back for my July wrap up with some more books to share. I've been watching Corey Tyler on YouTube non-stop. She was on The Circle, and she's a booktuber, and I am just obsessed with her videos, so she inspired me to start making booktube videos. So I really hope you guys like this. I usually post about Disney or concerts on my YouTube channel, so if you're interested in either one of those, please subscribe, please check out my other videos. If not, I hope you enjoyed this one at least. I will see you for more books next month, and thank you again. Bye.